Be patient in this video because there's a lot of stuff we cover. It's not just general service and maintenance. I also get into installing the hood pad. Just stay tuned and hope you enjoy the video, and here we go. All right, guys, here we are back at part 3 for the 1985 300D. Today is the general service video. We're doing all the fluids and filters, and also I want to take out that battery tray, inspect underneath it, and I want to refinish the battery tray. The rest of the car is so nice that I just want to take that out, clean it and sand it and repaint it back to semi-gloss like it came from the factory. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So I've already got the bolts loose here. Take those out. And we'll just set these up here. And this battery tray just slips right out. Wow, guys, look how clean it is under here. Let me show you guys this. This is the common, rust area on 300Ds. Turn on the light. Look at that. Clean as can be. That's just some dirt down there, and that's it. Not a single speck of rust. That is fantastic. So I want to take this battery tray. You can see it's not rusted through. Somebody, it looks like, hit it with some primer at some point just to make sure. But I want to wash this off in the wash tank, sand it, and then repaint it the correct. There you go. There's a little surface rust there. Repaint it the correct semi-gloss black. You can see there's still some on it there. That's how it looked from the factory. So let's go ahead and take this over to the wash tank and do that. All right, first thing you want to do before you paint anything, you always want to make sure it's really clean. So let's go ahead, clean it off here in the wash tank, and then we're going to let it dry. And then we'll do a little bit of sanding to sand it smooth, and then we'll prime it and paint it, and this will be good as new. Looks like somebody already primed it because they knew this is a weak spot in 300Ds, so it's already got the gray primer on it. Got a 100 grit here. Oh yeah, there we go. Little rough spot right there on the corner. All right, first thing we're going to do is go over it with a self-etching primer. We'll do a couple of light coats. This is self-etching primer. This is good stuff, automotive primer. And then we'll refinish it. This stuff looks great. It's Rust-Oleum semi-gloss, not gloss, it's semi-gloss enamel. And this matches those original factory finishes really, really well. Let's check on our battery tray. That should be dry by now. Let me get the diff fluid out of the way. Yeah, that looks really good, and it's dry. So now we're going to go ahead and start with several light coats of the semi-gloss. All right. All right, that'll be coat one. We'll go ahead and let that dry. All right, here we are the next day, and I think our battery tray is dry now. And look at that. Factory fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in the car, and that'll be good for the next 30 years. All right, mission accomplished. We have a beautifully refinished battery tray back to how it was from the factory. That came out really nice, and that will protect that tray, and it will last 4 decades. All right, we also have our hood pad. I just have it up here on top of the car right now. And I went ahead and got the one that does have the foil. That's the heat shield that lays above the turbo. And that'll protect heat from coming up and, you know, soaking into your hood and possibly messing up the paint later down the road. You can also get them without the foil, but I always like using one with the foil. And it fits right over this area here where all your turbo from the heat emanates. So we'll go ahead and get that hood pad up there. This is the stuff you use for a hood pad. Super trim adhesive. Let's see, where's the part number? There it is, 08090. Use half the can on the hood and half the can on the hood pad. And then you wait about 5 minutes or so for the hood pad to get tacky and the hood to get tacky. And then you just place it up there, and that'll be good for the next, you know, so many years. Okay, we want to go ahead, change all the fluids. So we're going to start with the oil and filter. All right, guys, I like to use Mann filters, German company. They make good stuff. And all the Mann filters come with a crush washer for the bolt on the oil pan, your oil pan drain plug. And they come with the O-ring that goes in the oil filter cap. Let's go ahead and get this open and put that cap back on. All right. Guys, you don't put a lot of torque on those. The O-ring does all the sealing. You don't need to torque it down. All right, let's get the car up in the air, drain the oil. Then we'll put it back down, work on some of the top end fluids. All right, guys, this is the oil I like to use, Shell Rotella T4. It's your basic heavy duty diesel engine oil. And this takes about 2 gallons, a little less than 2 gallons. So let's go ahead and get that in here. Okay, guys, once we put it in there, we want to let the, we'll fire up the engine to get some oil pressure, and then we'll let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then we'll check our dipstick and see if we need to top it off any. And then while we're letting it sit, let's go ahead and check out the power steering fluid. And we want to change the filter. We want to go ahead and change the filter in the power steering reservoir. That actually looks pretty good, but we're going to change it anyway. And to get the filter out, there's a little 10 millimeter nut there. We got to remove this. There we go. We'll go ahead and take that off, along with the spring. And then we can fish our filter out of there and drain that power steering fluid. I had it. There we go. Okay, there is our old filter. Let me show you the new filter so you can see the difference. There we go. There is our new power steering filter. So we'll get this old one out of here. First, before we put the new one in, we're going to drain all the fluid out of here. All right. We've drained that fluid, and we're going to put in our new filter. And let me get the ATF. Here's the stuff you want to use. Dex Merc. You can use Valvoline, Napa, but let's see right here on the back. There we go. Dexron 3 Mercon. That's the stuff you use. There we go. The other stuff was brown. This is nice, bright red. See the bubbles coming out? See them coming out of there? All right, we need to fire up the car, turn the steering wheel lock to lock, get some bubbles out, and then keep adding it till it's full. And let's go ahead and check our oil from where it's been about 10 minutes. We got it perfect. Despite it just changing the oil, it's already turned black, but there's a mark there and a mark there. We've got it right up there at the high mark. So we don't need to add any more oil. Diesel oil is very dirty, you guys. You'll notice when you change your oil, after running the car for just a few minutes, it'll be black again because all the soot in the diesel engines. All right, let's get our cap on here, and then there we go. What that is, guys, that spring, I always wonder what that is, but it's when you take the screw off the cap and you relieve the tension, that spring pushes up the cap for you. That's pretty cool. All right. So let me finish up on this, getting the bubbles out of that. Next, we are going to bleed the brake system, put in new brake fluid, and flush the coolant. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do, drain the coolant and flush the brake system. And there's a nice little plug on the bottom of the radiator on the 123 chassis. But you can just undo that and drain that radiator. All right, while that's draining, we're going to take off the wheels and crack all the bleeders, flush the brake fluid out. Probably not going to record that, guys, but you'll see me refilling the brake fluid here in a minute, and we'll get some fresh fluid in there. This is plastic, guys, so you don't need to crank it down and strip your threads. There you go. Just snug it right up there. All right, let's go ahead and crack some of these brake bleeders. We'll just, actually I can do it with the wheels on. We'll pop our caps off. Little protective bleeder caps. And I think it's a 11 millimeter. And you can crack the bleeder, and the gravity bleed method works good. We'll just bleed it into cups, drain some fluid out, and fill it up as we go. All right, guys, it's pretty basic. I just have a cup here that I run a tube to, and I hook that up. I put the string around my bleeder, then I can crack the bleeder loose and gravity bleed the system into my cup. So first we're going to lower the car, and then we'll go up top and crack the lid on our master cylinder, and then we'll come in here and start bleeding. Guys, always use a fender guard. See how I've got the fender guard up? Because brake fluid is highly corrosive. It will take your paint off in a second. So if you spill any, you want to definitely make sure you have a fender guard. So over here, we also have our coolant reservoir. Let's go ahead and get the correct coolant. And guys, this is the stuff you want to use. It is the Zurex G05, and they even have we've been using this for years. It protects the cooling system, the aluminum parts. It's designed for Mercedes, but they also, there's a new one that just came out, and see, it says Mercedes, and Mercedes is actually superseding this with an even newer formula. But this is the stock I have on the shelf. This is the good stuff. You can go ahead and use G05, and I can't remember what the G number is for the new one. There's also a blue one you can use. And guys, what you do, you crank the car and you leave the cap off of the coolant reservoir, and the system is self-bleeding. Sometimes it helps to put the front wheels up a little bit on the ramps, but you don't have to do that. Just leave the cap off, run the car for a little while, and it will self-bleed. And then you can make sure you get we have our coolant line right about here. You want it right up here. There's an arrow. Okay, so we can go ahead and crack our bleeder loose. And there we go. We're going to let this old fluid just gravity bleed out of here. You can see it slowly creeping out of there. Here it comes. So that takes a little while for each side to gravity bleed, and we'll just go up and keep checking our master cylinder until we see it get pretty low. Then we'll refill it with fresh fluid, flush some fresh fluid through there, and then switch to the other side. All right, we just finished bleeding all 4 calipers. You can see that brake fluid is brand new. Got all that nasty stuff out of there. And we have our coolant. You can see there's our fresh. You can barely see it because it's the same color. That Zurex is the same color as the reservoir. So we want to top it off and then get the system up to engine temperature, let the bubbles come out of there, and then top it off some more. You can see there's our fill line right there. And notice we have the cap off the reservoir. So we're going to get the engine up to temperature, then the thermostat is going to open, and it's going to suck in some of that coolant, and then we'll top it off. All right, looks like we've got any air bubbles out of here. We see our coolant line is right there on the arrow. And let's just check our engine temp. There we go. Engine temp is exactly, it's slightly over 80, which is absolutely perfect. So let's go ahead and shut this off. And there we go. We need to, let's see, put in an air filter, and then next a new air filter. And it looks like it's got an original Mercedes pre-filter there, and we want to change the main filter, and then we'll be done with the service on this vehicle. Oh, we need to check this transmission fluid. Okay, that fluid is bright red. That is fresh transmission fluid. Usually, you know, it's time to service them. They'll get a little brown in color. And that's about as red as you can get. So that transmission fluid is good. We don't need to service that. So let's go ahead and get a air filter main fuel filter and pre-fuel filter on here. And to remove this one, it is a 15/16 or a 24 millimeter. And you just undo this big bolt right here. Now you're gonna get diesel everywhere, guys. It's gonna drip everywhere. It doesn't hurt anything, don't worry about it. Just screw off your filter. Because that is our canister filter right here. That's the main fuel filter. I don't know, you change this every once or twice a year. Matthew, how often you change the 617 main fuel filter?
When the car starts slowing down.
Yeah, Matthew said when the car starts slowing down. And that's about right too. All right, we get this out of here. All right, there we go. And here's our replacement, guys. MAN filters. I think the dealership even uses a lot of MAN stuff. So MAN's the good stuff. I like MAN and Hengst, Hengst. Those are both German companies. First thing we want to do is fill this old filter. I'm sorry, fill the new filter with fresh diesel. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble starting your car because you're going to have air bubbles in the system. All right, so we'll just fill this up to the top with fresh diesel. Literally, guys, fill it like to the brim, because the less air you have in there, the easier it's going to be to fire up the car. And you just spin it back on there. And again, you're going to make a little bit of a mess. Don't worry about it. Won't hurt anything. We'll wipe it off when we're done. All right, let's go ahead, tighten that back down. And guys, you just basically tighten it till it bottoms out. You don't need to crank it down or go crazy with it. There we go. Right there. See our pre-fuel filter? So we want to get a stubby screwdriver, undo that Phillips there. There's also one there. Pull this out and pop a new pre-filter in there. Phillips, and guys, this is the one part I don't like the Mercedes OEM part, because the Mercedes OEM part is not transparent. You cannot see through the plastic to see if your pre-filter is dirty. So I like these. These are Hengst, German company, but you can see through it. You can see how dirty it is and know, hey, I might need to change it soon because I see some, it's getting clogged up. The original Mercedes ones you can't see through, and it's kind of a pain in the butt because you don't know if it's clogged or not. Just get this down here. And when you're doing this, make sure you don't hit your vacuum lines. A lot of people will go in here and bump the vacuum lines, or it's pretty hard to disconnect them, but they will. And then their car won't shut off, or the door locks won't work, and it's because they knocked loose a vacuum line while they were changing their pre-fuel filter. There we go. Got that one out. Watch me knock a vacuum line loose. All right, drop that one on the floor. Put our new one in there. Boom. And stick back in there. All right, then we just need to tighten it back down. There is the new filter. Now, once you put it in there, I'm also going to install a new primer pump. See, that's the original primer pump. Those are prone to leaking, but that's what you unscrew the primer pump and you pump it, a good 20, 30 times after you do this filter change, and it reprimes the system. So let's go ahead, tighten these hose clamps back down, and then change our primer pump. All right, guys, I've already broken this loose. This is the original primer pump. And there we go. So the way these work, that's the original one from the factory. And it actually unscrews like that. And once it's unscrewed, it can operate as a pump. Well, these leak. You can see there's a little O-ring right there. This one actually wasn't leaking, but they inevitably, the original ones will leak. There's also a copper crush washer on the lift pump. All right, we got that out of there, and you can see there's the lift pump. there is the copper crush washer right there. So we'll take that out. Here's what we replace those with. Bosch has made a replacement, and it looks like this. You don't have to unscrew it. Here's the, I guess there's a Bosch part number, and there's a protective cap from the factory. You unscrew the cap, you see they give you another crush washer. So we're actually just gonna screw this back down into here. All right, guys, I know you really can't see down in here, but what I have here is a crow's foot wrench. I'm actually using an SAE size here. This is 11/16. Matthew, you probably know the equivalent metric, 17 millimeter. So I don't have a 17 millimeter crow's foot, but that's what it takes. And let me get a longer extension. Okay, here we go. We'll just get down in here. We put it around there. There we go. That is tight, you guys. We'll go ahead and prime the system now. So you can see there is our new filter and new pump, and we can see the air bubbles coming out of there. We'll go ahead and pump it up, get most of those bubbles out, and then this thing should fire. There we go, they're starting to go out. This thing should fire straight away without having to, you know, crack the injectors, or sometimes you have to crack that outlet port right there. See the arrow pointing out? Just crack that little fitting right there and turn the car over a few times, and that will bleed the air out of the system. But I think we're good. So we've got that changed. All right, let's go ahead and fire it up. And we'll go up there and make sure we have no leaks. Damn, this car is nice in here. Look at that. Don't see many 300Ds like that. All right, let's let our glow plugs go. Perfect. Didn't even stumble. So we got our new filters in there. We are good to go. That engine shut off is quick. See how quick that engine shut off? That's a super healthy vacuum system. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and change the diff fluid on here. And it's always a good idea to make sure you can get your fill plug out first before you drain it. Because if those are stuck, you definitely don't want to drain your diff fluid. And sometimes this bolt or this plug down here takes a little coaxing. I can tell that this has been changed. See how easy that was to get out? That means someone has been in here at some point. So I'm guessing we're going to see some fresh diff fluid come out. But we're going to find out here in a second. All right, it's not horribly dirty, but yeah, it could use a change. It's got 48,000 miles on it, or there's been one service interval in there in between. So let's go ahead and get this changed. And basically, once it's drained out, you just put the plug back in, you fill it up till it starts to come out of the fill hole, and that's it. And you'll see there's a crush washer right here along the fill plug. You want to replace the crush washer. And guys, if you don't have one, you can get away with not replacing it. But you know, after a couple of times, you're going to want to replace it just to prevent it from leaking. Here is the diff oil. You just use regular old Dinosaur gear oil, 80W90. I buy this from Napa. You can use Valvoline. Valvoline and Napa are the two that I like to use. All right, we have that drained out. Let's go ahead and put our fill plug back in. And I think this is a pipe fitting. In other words, it's tapered. It gets tighter as you go in. So it seals itself. And when it starts to come out, that's when you're full. It's either 2 pints or 2 quarts. I think it's 2 pints. Can't remember what the amount is, but it doesn't matter because you just... What's that? 1.1 liters. There you go, 1.1 liters. That's Matthew in the background. He's working on another car. He's working on the race car. But as I said, you don't need to know the exact amount because you just fill it till it starts to come out of the fill hole and you're good. There you go. That is a full diff. So we'll go ahead and pull that out of here. Wipe that off. We got our new crush washer on there. And there you go. That is a serviced differential. The last service item on the vehicle is checking the air filter. This just pops off here. Roll that back out of the way. And undo your clips. Let's check out the condition of this air filter. Yep, we want to change that air filter. Now, some of these, that's a original Mercedes there, and that's actually a MAN. MAN filters are identical to this. Yeah, that's a dirty, probably original filter. I don't know if it's original, but it's dirty. So let's go ahead and put a fresh one in there. All right, so we just take your fresh filter, pop it down in there. And this is a MAN filter. Again, I really like using, sometimes the Hengst will install easier on these cars. There you go. The MAN fits kind of tight, but I just like using MAN stuff. And that's it, guys. You just put your lid back on. Roll our tube back over. And we'll put our 10 millimeter back on. There we go. All right, guys, today I'm going to put the hood pad on the car, and you can see I've got plastic, I've got a blanket, I've just got various stuff I had in the shop to just cover up everything, because you don't want to get this, this is super trim adhesive, 08090 by 3M. So the way you do this, you put half the can on the hood, and you put the other half the can on the hood pad. And then you let it sit for a couple of minutes to get it a little tacky, and then you put it up there. It's a two-man job, so Jim's over here helping me.
Yeah, we're gonna put a little class into this tacky job.
All right. There you go. See the little strings kind of hanging down? That's why I put all this down here. All right, we probably have about that much left in the can. There's just a little left, but that's going to be good. So we'll let that get tacky for a minute. All right, guys, it's been about 5 minutes. So we're just going to pick it up from the edges over there. Yep. And let's line up. You get that lined up there?
My way a little bit. There we go.
All right, so now hold it right in the center. Now hold your edge all the way up. Yep. Now rub your hand down the center. You don't have to press hard, just rub your hand down. All right, now go out from the center over to your, yep.
Beautiful.
Do it over there.
All right.
And then tuck under the lip. See where the lip tucks under? You go from the center out. All right, let me come.
Very nice.
All right, now just take your hand, go to that side over there.
All right.
And you don't need to press hard.
Okay.
So just there we go. That's how you put on a hood pad. And there we go, guys. Beautiful new hood pad. I'll leave the sticker on there. There we go. All right, guys, as you can see, I'm in the car and I took this radio out. But what I noticed, that radio is, I think those started in 1986. That is the incorrect radio for this 300D. And we can actually see that this one has been into Becker years ago, Becker Audio. So I think they replaced the original radio with this one. And let me show you guys. And we're going to put in an original radio from 1985. Let me show you guys what the original 1985 looks like. Okay, there we go. I actually have them next to each other right here. So the one in the car was that one on the bottom. The correct radio is that one on the top with the smaller LCD like that. So let's see what I got down there in the bottom. Yeah, there's another one, original one down there. So I'm going to, and then we're going to put that back in the car so we have the actual correct radio. All right, guys, here we go. A few days later, we got the correct radio installed. Remember, see how that looks different? Like I said, this is from starting, I think, 1986. That's the wrong one. Now we have the correct one. So
we mentioned him in Quiplash.
Go ahead and fire this thing up.
The picture on our socials.
Yeah, and your wife.
And
Kelly.
let's make sure our antenna works.
It's nothing but love.
All right.
Snarky. Who's the last person you'd want on a...
There's our antenna raising up back there.
Yeah. She said me.
All right, you guys can see the antenna in the rearview mirror. So I'm going to manually operate. Let me turn down the volume here. I'm going to manually operate the switch, and we can show that the antenna control works correctly. All right, see the antenna? There we go. We've lowered it halfway. Lowered it a little farther. Now we'll let it go back up. Now we'll turn off the radio. And you can see it retracting. All right. So now let's turn on our lights. And we can see the radio is correctly illuminating. So there we go. That is an original radio install. Here, let's go ahead and see if we can capture the antenna. There we go. So if we say full mast, there it goes, all the way up. Now let's turn off the radio. There we go. It correctly retracts. So the antenna is working great. Let's go ahead and check the radio functions. So let's do, if you press, oh, let me turn on the light. All right. If we press the star, we can dial in our station. I'm going to say 101.5. All right. That's great. Wow, look at that wood. That wood looks absolutely incredible. Let's try the fader. Awesome. Fader correctly fades to the rear.
I'm pretty sure I shouted that star before email.
There we go. Fades to the front. And now we have it centered on all speakers.
Every place you've ever
And let's try our...
sends you an email to remind you it's Black Friday and it's Cyber Monday. It's Cyber Monday.
There's our bass and that's our bass and treble control.
New Country 101.5 with Nate Smith.
Works perfect. Let's see. There we go. There's our time. There's our station. All right. Let's turn that off. All right, guys, that was a lot to cover in this video. So there's actually one last thing we want to do. In the fuel tank, it's underneath the first aid kit is your fuel sender. Now the fuel sender, it tells you operate your gauge. It sends ohm resistance to the gauge and tells you if you have full tank or it's empty. The fuel senders can get dirty after years of having diesel in them. So even if your gauge is working, you always want to take apart your fuel sender. If you've never done it, take apart, look at it, clean it, and put it back together. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. All right, guys, this is how you remove and clean the fuel sender. First, I want to point out that is an immaculate cover on the first aid kit. There's not even any fading on the little first aid cross there. That's crazy. So you open this guy up. You're going to remove your first aid kit. We'll just set that in the seat. Oh, there's some 40-year-old Band-Aids. There you go. You see a screw right here and a screw right there. So you go ahead, take those screws out. And I've got a little stuff. Okay, then this slides up. There you go. You slide it up. There we go. And you pull it straight out. We'll just set that down there. That rattling you heard was my stubby wrench inside there. And right here, there's your trunk, of course. You can see I got some parts back there. There is your fuel sender. Now all you do is unplug the power to it. It's okay, you don't need to disconnect the battery. And then we have a special socket that goes around there to loosen it. All right, our special socket. Here we go. I've got two styles. I think I got this one from Kent at Mercedes Source. Here's another one that was made. So that is a 1 13/16. And that, a what?
42 millimeter.
42 millimeter is the equivalent. I wonder how big this one is. But that goes around. I'll show you, and then you do a 17 millimeter. Let's get that. And we'll get an extension. There we go. And that goes there. And let's go take this fuel sender out of here. Okay guys, I'm going to record from outside the car, so you're not going to be able to see the fuel sender, but there it is right there. And put this guy. Now, guys, you want to pull it out, not all the way, just a little bit, because diesel is going to drain out of it. So you're going to drain most of it into the tank before you actually pull it out of the car. All right, let's let that drain out, and then we'll take it over to the workbench. All right, guys, we have our fuel cylinder over here on top of the parts washer, and on the bottom, there's a little nut. It is a strange nut. You have to make a special tool. So I just ground down the tips of some pliers. See if you can see that. So it will fit in the little notches. There we go. I'll set that up there. Then we remove the end cap. Guys, I can already tell this one's going to be clean. And then we slide off the cap. Yeah, this one is very clean. So there's 3 wires on here. You want to be careful not to break them. So I do see a little bit of sludge right there. And that's going to prevent our tank probably from reading all the way full. So I want to scrape off some of that sludge so this smoothly moves up and down. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I just made a little tool for this. I just cut a little notch in a screwdriver. And you just want to be very careful not to break these little wires. See, you can't even see them on camera, but there's 3 little wires. And there we go. You just scrape off any kind of sludge. There you go. And that's what you're looking to do. You just scrape that little stuff off the shaft, and then that will move smoothly again. And you got to do this on pretty much all of them. But the good thing is it's rebuildable. You don't have to go buy a new one by any means. And sometimes, guys, I'll get in here with Scotch-Brite and polish it a little bit with Scotch-Brite, but I think we're good on this one. So let's go ahead and open the parts washer and clean this up a little bit with parts washing solvent. There we go. See how your bobber moves now? That is working excellent. That's exactly what you want. Okay, now it's just time for reassembly. So all you do, so you probably can't see this on the video. There's a small notch right there, or like a beveled tab, and that matches up with the notch right here. So that's how you reassemble it. Right there. And push it together. There we go. All right, now we can put our end cap back on. Like that. Then we put our end cap plate. There we go. There we go. And here's how you know if you did it right, guys. You hear it? Hear how the bobber's moving perfect in there? That is a cleaned up and fully restored fuel sending unit. That'll be good for the next decade. All right, guys, it's really easy to install it back in the car. All right, and there we go. We put our first aid kit back in there. Put our little screws right there and right there. All right, now we just need to check our work and make sure our gauge reads accurately after reassembling. So we'll grab our key here. Boom, there we go. Works perfect. Boom. All right, guys, that is it for the service and maintenance. We did the hood pad, fuel sender, diff, fluid, oil filter, oil fluid, fuel filters, power steering fluid. Anyway, you guys saw all the stuff in the video. Hope you enjoyed it. The next and I think final video for this car is going to be the AC service video. So that's coming next, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.